So thank you for joining us for today's special program, the Gail Adinamis WEGG Award for Exemplary Global Leadership. And as all of you, I hope know, I am Laurel Delaney, president and founder of Women Entrepreneurs Grow Global, and I am accompanied by my esteemed colleagues, Molly Benuelos, WEG secretary and board member, along with Ella bio partner Nixon Peabody, whose firm represents WEG on a bunch of different legal matters. And then, of course, we are also joined by Gail Adinamis, the special guest for whom this prestigious award is named. This program is made possible thanks to our sponsors, and you can see them on our opening slide. That's APCO, Associated Bank, FedEx, Flomo, Global Care Clinical Trials, LuxLine, SciApps, and also Visa. I am delighted that everyone is with us today. So thank you for your engagement. It means the world to us, and we are super excited about this day. So let's welcome our MCs for today's program. And that is Molly, you are up first, so I am going to let you take it from here.
Excellent. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Laurel. My name is Molly Benuelos, so I am the volunteer board secretary on WEG, and I'm so happy to see so many familiar and new faces this morning. Best way to start the week. So I have the pleasure today of kind of providing a bit of background about today's award ceremony and where we go from here. So the Gail Adinamis WEG Award for Exemplary Global Leadership honors and celebrates Gail, who's founder and CEO of Global Care Clinical Trials, LLC, who has been absolutely crucial to the growth and success of Women Entrepreneurs Grow Global, WEG. This annual award honors a WEG stakeholder who has gone out of her way to connect, create, contribute, and collaborate with WEG and forge alliances that have proven helpful. These are traits that we all think define an exemplary global leader. True global leaders like Gail Adinamis are defined by how they contribute to the improvement and growth of others. So thank you again, Gail, for all of your contributions and support for WEG over the years, not the least of which is this actual annual event that we're happy to put on an award out. And that said, we're actually delighted to have last year's award winner from 2024, Deborah Dudley, who's actually online with us today. Deborah is president of Oscar Ware. Deborah, so if we'd love to invite you to share a few words if you're able to this morning.
I'd love to.
Thank
Good
you.
morning, everyone. It's so good to see so many people here to celebrate this day. Um, Last year was a big day for me when you voted me to receive this prestigious award. I don't know if you can see it or not. This sitting right here on my desk. It's been sitting there ever since with the handwritten note that came with it, which was so special. The award itself is here on my desk, but it's in my mind and it'll be in my heart forever. Knowing that I have had any part of being thought of as deserving of this award. I mean, starting a business is easy. Sustaining a business is hard. And it takes a lot of hard work, but it also takes a lot of help, advice, and just friendships. I was introduced to Laurel 4 years ago by Steve Sullivan. It was the best introduction I ever had. And through her, I have met so many of you. And we inspire each other. We're like a family. And I know that you're there for me. I know that you have your stories, I have mine, but sharing those and becoming friends and supporting each other is so important. And that's something hard to find in life. So thank you for thinking I'm deserving of this award. And enough about me, because I'm here to celebrate this year's winner. And I know that she is amazing. And I'm going to let someone else talk now because I want to know who this year's winner is. And again, ladies, thank you for all your support. And I'm always here for you. And I mean that with all my heart.
Thank you, Deborah. As a good board secretary, I think I typed out your quote, starting a business is easy, but maintaining it is very difficult. And I know that Laurel liked that as well. I feel like she might have our legal team reach out to you about trademarking that. No. And I think we actually have another previous award winner here with us as well, Michelle Hayward. We'd love to give you the time to welcome the crowd as well if you'd like. And Michelle is the founder of Blue Dog and founder of Car Drop.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Molly. Thanks, Laurel, for the invitation today. And I echoed Deborah's comments for sure. I want to take a moment, given this platform today, to thank and express my deepest appreciation to Laurel Delaney, who is the founder, of course, and the president of Women Entrepreneurs Grow Global. Laurel's efforts are tireless. I've been the beneficiary of her tremendous energy over the last, I don't know, has it been 20 years? It's been quite some time. So I'm very, very grateful. And her efforts have not only kept women in the news, but have empowered them to take their rightful place on the global stage. And this dedication to education is inspiring, and the nurturing of women is important. And the fact that it is global and worldwide is truly commendable. So, as Deborah said, looking forward to hearing the news firsthand today and celebrating with this tremendous crowd of both award winners, supporters, and beneficiaries. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Now I'm happy to introduce my fellow board member, Ella Bao, who is going to share today's announcement about this year's winner of the award. Oh, sorry, Ella, you're on mute.
Happens every time still. Sorry about that. Yeah, so it's great to be with you all. Before we get to our award winner, I just wanted to take a minute to introduce, with great pleasure and honor, the person whom this award is named after. And that's Gail Adinamis, who is the founder and CEO of Global Care Clinical Trials, LLC, a global patient-centric service organization that conducts study visits at patients' homes or alternate settings via a global network of mobile healthcare providers to support traditional, virtual, or hybrid clinical studies in over 65 countries. Gail has over 40 years of comprehensive global clinical trials experience, including more than 12 years of global trial management at Abbott Laboratories and Astellas Pharma US. She established the clinical trials divisions for 3 national home infusion companies and served as president of those wholly owned subsidiaries. In 2004, Gail founded and was president and CEO of an independent ambulatory care service company for clinical trials prior to establishing Global Care Clinical Trials, LLC, in 2010. The company was acquired by LabCorp in July of 2020, further expanding its decentralized clinical trials capabilities globally. Gail serves as a senior advisor and is active in many industry associations and has received numerous awards, including twice being among Inc. 5000's fastest growing private companies, CEO and International Game Changer of the Year, Crain's Chicago Most Notable Women in Healthcare, and among the top 50 fastest growing women-owned companies in 2018 and 2019. So without further ado, it is my great pleasure to announce Gail Adinamis.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. It is really a pleasure to be joining you here this morning. It's so inspiring to see so many women entrepreneurs. It almost makes me feel like coming out of retirement, but not quite. So, and I think that this is such a great forum to get women together, to share their stories, their experiences. It's so gratifying and so rewarding for women to do this. And Laurel has, you've been such a leader in making this happen, and just so inspiring for all of us. And as someone said, you're just endless energy for everyone, and it's so appreciated. So I have the distinct honor of naming the recipient of the Gail Adinamis WEGG Award this year, and that's Ms. Diana Yosef. So I'd like to share her incredible story with you all now. So Diana Yosef, PhD, MBA, MA, is a scientist and serial entrepreneur with over 15 years experience commercializing technology for global social and environmental impact. Formerly, she consulted for McKinsey, co-founded IFC, World Bank's Life Sciences Investment Group, and the United Nations Inclusive Markets Incubator, and was a venture investor with 2 seed stage VC funds spinning out biotech and clean tech innovations from government and academic labs. As an entrepreneur, she helped launch companies in the waste cycling, water treatment, and thin film solar spaces. She is a former protein biochemist with an AB from Harvard, PhD from Cornell, and holds an MBA and MA in International Affairs from Columbia. She served as an advisor to the TED Fellows Program and a founding council member for the NASA USAID's Launch Accelerator. She is also a Cartier Women's Initiative awardee, a Lemelson's AAAS Invention Ambassador, and a World Economic Forum Top Innovator. In 2019, she was invited by the Turkish government to speak about her innovative work in water at the UN Climate Summit. She is a founder and CEO of Change, Water Labs, a mission-driven clean tech venture leveraging NASA-inspired materials, science, and technology to increase safe, sustainable, and scalable access to clean water and sanitation. Just an incredible individual. It's so impressive. So please join me in a well-deserved round of applause for the award recipient of the 2025 Gail Adinamis WEGG Award for Exemplary Global Leadership, Ms. Diana Yosef.
Congratulations, Diana.
Thank you so much. Actually, I'm so excited to have received this. Thank you so much. It's hard to see. Maybe I should put a black background behind it so that you can all see it. So thank you so much. This is beautiful, by the way. And I'm glad it got to me because I just got back to the States, and just I was at a World Economic Forum meeting in Europe, and so I'm just back, and this is such a welcome back home after a couple of weeks of work abroad. So thank you so much. I am really honored to be part of this women's sort of sisterhood on entrepreneurship. I think my story in terms of getting into starting my own business, it was really kind of tied to having my first kid. I had sort of had this professional career. I was living in New York City, and then sort of, maybe a little too late, decided to have my first child. And as at the same time that I became a mom, we also moved back to my original hometown of Boston, Massachusetts. And all of a sudden, my career evaporated. I just suddenly found myself completely irrelevant. I think, you know, for those of us who had kids, that first one, it's a bit of a shock to the system. And you don't really know sort of, I mean, physically you're sort of, in a different sort of a different status, and then and mentally too. But I didn't have a job that would come over with me from New York. So I spent a couple of years trying to figure out how to get myself back upright after having her. I mean, I loved her, but it was just such a shock to, everything else. I sort of found myself completely outside of everything. And um, eventually, after a couple of tries, dating other people's startups and trying to find, maybe can I go back to what I was doing before, and none of it worked. And I sort of finally took it as a sign, why don't I just start something new? And there were a couple of parameters around that. One was if I am going to be handing my child over to somebody else to take care of while I'm doing this, then whatever I'm doing better matter. And so it meant that I was going to be doing something that would hopefully try to set up the world for my kids. I now have three daughters. Um, Set it up in a better way that's kind of it distributes opportunity to more people and creates a more sustainable way of living. And then the other thing was I think so again, I have three daughters and I just wanted, I was kind of stunned by the fact that when you enter motherhood, there can be this sort of just completely falling off a cliff and with your career. And I just thought this just cannot be the answer for them. And I wanted to be able to tell them that when you get to that stage in life, you get to decide your direction and you don't have to ask permission. And but I'm a scientist by training. I can't really say anything unless I've actually proven it. So starting Changewater Labs was my attempt to prove this, was to prove that when a woman, finds that she's on the outside of the traditional structures and not quite relevant, she doesn't have to try to insinuate herself into the existing structures. She can create something new. She can have her own vision. She doesn't have to ask permission and she can go for it. And I believe that must have been the pathway that all these amazing women who are on the call today must have discovered. And what would have helped me so much when I was starting this, because it was terrifying, um, would have been to know other women who had done this. And I think I would have felt like, oh, I'm not doing something that's automatically destined to fail, that there are other women who've done this. So having connected with WEG, it's just so lovely to be part of this tribe of women who've tried to change things. And I think of it as part of my payback to do that for the next generation of women. So I'm very I want to be part of that microphone that megaphone that tells that story so that the girls that come after us will do this knowing that it's possible and they can set their own rules for it, and that there are many other women out there who can serve as inspiration for them, as we see on this call today. Um, I think I think maybe I can tell you a little bit about what change water is if I have time, Laurel. Do I have time?
Oh, definitely we want to hear. We definitely want
Okay,
and you can
great.
definitely hold the award up again too, because I
Yes,
really spotlighted the
it's
wrong.
so beautiful.
So I
Oh,
had
did I hold it
sunglasses
backwards? I might
wrong.
have held it
So,
backwards.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
There you
let's
go.
see.
There
Oh
you
yeah,
go.
okay.
Everyone.
Sorry. It looks
Yay.
backwards to me on the thing, but it's
Look at
forward for you.
it's
I'm
so
so
smart.
sorry.
Being a scientist, I love that you have the background on it too, because it really
I know the yellow didn't really work out
looks
so
so
well,
better.
so black worked out very well. Um,
Yeah, tell us a little
yeah,
bit
no,
about
this,
your organization, for sure.
yeah.
Thank you.
So Changewater Labs was started. Well, the seed of it started when I had the privilege of consulting to NASA for a bit on. They were looking at technology options to recycle wastewater on the space station. And so I was essentially helping them review a number of options. And one of the options that was suggested was the use of what are called breathable materials as a way to passively grab water out of wastewater and then pull it through a barrier and release it on the other side as pure water. Um, that sounds a little abstract. To make it more relatable, materials that we know that do this are like the sweat wicking sportswear that you wear while you're working out that keep you dry. Tyvek housing wrap. There are all sorts of materials that have this breathability property. And so what they do is they'll move moisture from one side of the membrane to the other side of the membrane, or the one side of the material to the other side of the material, um, driven largely by the fact that it's wetter on one side and drier on the other side. So these materials are very good at grabbing the water and pulling it through the barrier, the material, and then releasing it on the other side as pure water. So that was a suggestion that was made for how to recycle wastewater on the space station. And what the sort of light bulb that went off for me was, while the space station is probably the ultimate off-grid location, and it's very what's called resource constrained. So really the only water molecules they have up there are the ones that they brought up there with them. And so in order to be able to continue to have a source of water that supports all life systems on the space station, they're going to have to recycle all of those molecules of water thousands, thousands of times. And so that means all of the spit water from the toothpaste and the shower water and, the toilet water and everything else has to be recycled in order for them to have fresh water to use again and again and again. Um, Sounds a little gross, but as a scientist, I think in molecules. So, the idea of separating water molecule from everything else, that doesn't bother me, that you can recycle that you can reuse it. Well, what happened in my brain was that I was thinking, there are plenty of places on Earth that are off grid and don't have enough resources. And couldn't we take a solution like that and use that as a way to do off-grid water treatment for some of these more vulnerable communities and on Earth. And so I sat on that for a couple of years, and then it was a couple of years into having my first child, and I realized that maybe I should go back and try to see if I can turn that idea into a thing. And my initial idea was the idea of using breathable materials to purify drinking water. And I think most people know that there's a big problem out there for people in communities that don't have reliable infrastructure accessing safe drinking water. Um, After sort of thinking about this and brainstorming with some folks, I realized that my idea of using materials as a sort of low energy way to separate clean water from dirty water, um, probably the better solution is not necessarily to generate clean water with this approach, but to get rid of dirty water. And then immediately I started thinking about sanitation. And I don't know how many people here have traveled in low-income countries or even just been to very off-grid remote places in the world, but about one out of every two of us lives in a place where we don't have access to water or sewage infrastructure. So that means 50% of the world's population lacks access to safe, clean toilets because they can't flush. And so I pivoted to look at the sanitation issue and the issue of access to toilets. And then I started to realize that this is actually an issue that has a ton of implications for people. So, besides uh, public health and well-being in poor communities where people can't manage sewage properly, this is also a huge gender issue. So if you go to places where women don't have access to toilets in or near home, then essentially what they have to do is they have to go do their most private thing every day out in public. And that attracts a lot of unwanted attention, as well as what's called sanitation-related gender-based violence. So that really means that, there are many cases out there where women, by having to go use public facilities or essentially go in public, are being subjected to sexual assault. So if we could bring more toilet access in or near home, you make it a dignified and safer experience for women. And communities just do better when women are safer and women are thriving. The other big gender connection here is that 50% of schools in the world don't provide safe, clean toilets. That becomes a real problem for students to attend school for a day, especially girls. So girls end up spending a lot of time and energy managing their urge to go. And that is a big challenge for, essentially being able to sit and get an education. And then by the time they hit puberty, about 20% of them drop out of school altogether because of, and that's largely to do with, or it's contributed to by the fact that there aren't safe, clean toilets in their schools. So so essentially it's also a girls' education issue. And if you go down the list of what are called the Sustainable Development Goals, which are the goals that governments have to try to essentially create economic opportunity and social empowerment in places where we also don't ruin the planet, the 17 goals, our one intervention, this toilet that we've invented, and I'll tell you about that in a second, has the potential to impact 13 of the 17 impact goals for, for the next phase of our development as a species on this planet. So to tell you what I invented, we and my team, we basically invented a material that is very good at sucking up water from waste mass, and by pulling liquid water through that membrane, converts it into pure water vapor. And so we call this material shrink wrap for crap. There's no there's no dignity in the toilet business, so we completely lean into it and go for all the humor. But in any case, this material that we've created, this breathable material, the shrink wrap for crap, enables a product that we've developed called the iThrone. So I haven't heard from Apple yet, but essentially we've created a toilet that has the ability to shrink waste by 95% on site within 24 hours. And it uses this material that sucks up the water content of human waste, which is 95% of what comes out of us. So it sucks up that water, that liquid water content, and it pulls it through the material. And by pulling it through the material, converts that liquid into vapor. And so to our eye, it really looks like this is a toilet that flushes away waste by making it disappear, but it's really just a phase change from liquid to gas. The water that comes out, that vapor water that comes out, is pure water vapor. It goes back into the environment. So essentially, we're accelerating that process that's actually a natural process of recycling water back into the environment. But the other thing that this does is for the toilet, it really shrinks the cost and complexity of providing safe, clean toilets in places that don't have infrastructure and reducing the cost of waste collection and servicing. So we've been able to pilot this in two low-income communities. One, and we're targeting mostly urban and coastal sanitation, where the majority of people live, and where sanitation is managed badly in places where we don't have proper infrastructure. So we piloted this in a refugee hosting community in Uganda. And currently, we've been running an 18-month pilot in a low-income part of Panama City that has an indigenous population that's living in slum-like conditions. And it's been working really well. And we've managed to graduate these people to more dignified, cleaner, more sustainable sanitation. And so what's the way forward? This year is the year that we're working on translating that iThrone that we build by hand to one that we can distribute at scale, so that we can get this out and make safe and sustainable sanitation accessible to more people and more places at lower cost. So that's our story.
And that is an amazing story. You know, you almost have to catch your breath. I'm thinking, where do we start? What I want to do is, if I could just ask a million questions right now, and I want to make sure it's about everybody, it's about you and everyone else. And so whoever wants to ask a question, oh, okay, Ella, you had your hand up, I saw first. Unmute and just jump in, ask your question or make a comment, please go right ahead. Thank you.
Oh, I was just clapping because this is just really amazing. It sounds wonderful, and kudos to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's not the most dignified of job titles, but really important. And
Super important. Yeah.
yeah, really important, because I think water and sanitation really underpin every way that, people on the planet survive and thrive. And so we need to solve it so that the other half has dignified and safe access the way that we do.
I'll remove.
I also love how you got where you are. You said you were getting the opportunities that you wanted. So you just made them yourself, and it's wonderful.
I wanted to
Yeah.
remove the spotlight so that we can see everyone with the questions. Other questions for Diana? Yeah, Susan, definitely unmute. Oh, you already are unmuted. Go right ahead.
First of all, wow, so inspiring. Those are my comments in the chat. This is great to meet you, Diana, and
Nice
also
to meet you.
hats off to the other award recipients. I get so inspired when we have these meetings. It's just I'm excited for my day. I'm excited for my week. Who are you partnering with? This just feels like an opportunity that you could be everywhere, right? So what does your next phase look like?
Right. So the way that we're planning to get these out, and we sort of piloted this with our Panama pilot, is piloting is partnering with construction companies that are actually building the housing and infrastructure where we would like to have these installed. And believe it or not, 70% of us are going to be living in cities by 2050, and 60% of us will be living in cities in the next 6 years. If you go to, there are going to be about 41 mega cities in the world by 2030. And if you go to those places, believe it or not, that urban expansion is happening without the sort of the same pace of infrastructure expansion. And on top of that, our demand for water outstrips supply for water by about 40%. So really the future of sanitation in these growing cities is going increasingly sewerless. And so who's building those? It's, these construction companies. And we were a little surprised, because this was an inbound for us that, construction companies were approaching us and saying, look, we don't actually have solutions for the bathrooms in these buildings, without having to build sort of a hookup to water and a hookup to some kind of either sewer or septic or some kind of, on-site sewage treatment plant. And we need sort of something that's, more drop-in, much more sort of like standalone, cheaper. So for us, partnering with these construction companies that are building out that urban infrastructure is one way that we expand. Another way is 40% of us live near water. And right now, you can't have, in many of those places, you can't actually put sewer lines in the ground, in waterlogged ground. And so a lot of these systems, I don't know, if any of you live near, coastal regions, the state of Massachusetts where I live, people have their hair on fire about how much of sewage is ending up in the ocean around the Cape and the coasts. And so, you either get raw dumping or you get septic systems that leach nutrients into the water. Those nutrients actually create die-offs in our marine ecosystems and they poison the water, make it unsafe. So for 40% of us living near water, we need to have like a solution to deal with sanitation that isn't going to poison water. So we're thinking about septic alternatives for that application. And then the last sort of application or the last way we get out to the market is working with anyone who's essentially manufacturing, portable bathrooms or bathroom cabins for transportation equipment or modular buildings, modular construction. So, we could see like sort of like a waste evaporating toilet and a portable toilet, porta potty, and, uh, bus fleets, train fleets, eventually airplane fleets, RVs, yachts, um, and then, anywhere where basically you need to create sort of a bathroom cabin, like an insert, and where you don't have the hookups. So those are sort of the three ways that we see our in the near term, our solution getting out there.
And well, Ella didn't choose to do this. Please tell us you've either protected this by patent or trademark, or you're doing the things to protect your
Yeah,
intellectual
so we've got a
property.
couple of patents that have been out there, and actually just nationalized one of them a couple weeks ago in a couple of our target markets. And I'm married to a patent lawyer, so that wasn't, yeah. But then and then the trademark we're working on as well. Yeah,
Well done. Congratulations.
thank you.
Cool. Other questions or comments or congratulations?
Yeah.
Gail, definitely. Go right ahead.
So Diana, I don't know, one of the first things that came to my mind was cruise ships. You
Hmm.
got thousands and thousands of people on cruise ships, and I'm sure that
Yep.
they've had to be designed to, accommodate all of those
Yep.
people. And it seems like a perfect place to utilize your technology.
Yeah, we've been talking to a manufacturer in India that actually they were looking at so India has this huge coast and there are lots of people that live on houseboats along the coast and then there's also just sort of like other type of like marine applications as well. So we've been talking to them about how do we get our product adapted to that application. We've had a lot of yacht owners approach us because while the yachts can be very luxurious, the bathrooms are pretty grim. And so we started working on some design options and looking at some of the engineering challenges around putting this type of a toilet on a moving vehicle. And we made some progress on that as well. So that's kind of on the side of commercializing the more permanently installed toilet that we've got out there.
Excellent. Others, questions?
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations. And what an amazing journey you have been on. And just to give my daughter a shout out, Diane, she gave me my first grandchild this
Yeah.
year,
Oh,
which
wonderful.
she had wanted this baby for years, and I'm blessed. But I can relate to how hard it's been for her to learn to be a mom. And um, if you hadn't have, would you have thought of this? I mean, it's just like one thing happens,
Yeah.
um, can cause some time that you needed to really come up with such an amazing invention.
I
So,
think, yeah, I didn't feel brave enough initially. And I didn't, and part of not seeing other women in my, network, going off and starting businesses, especially as moms or new moms, just figured there must be a reason it doesn't happen. It's not that there is a reason that it doesn't happen. It's just I wasn't connected to the right networks. So clearly there are many women doing this, but the stories that you hear, especially where I live in Boston, and the stories that you hear are all about the like 20 something, computer science graduate from MIT that goes and, has some crazy idea and, lives in a garage and eats ramen noodles and then goes over to Silicon Valley. I mean, that was the paradigm for entrepreneurship. And that is not my paradigm. My paradigm, I was not loving doing this the first couple of years. It just felt like it was set up to fail. There wasn't this sort of ecosystem around me that was super excited to help me figure this out initially. Um, and I didn't have any, like I was just isolated. I didn't have connections to any institutions. I didn't have the money. I didn't have collaborators, so it took longer to get started. And one of the things that became a real key in terms of unlocking that or cracking that open was figuring out how to tell the story of what I wanted to do. It's the storytelling. I was just at a meeting in Europe about sort of, what are we going to do about sort of this global retrenchment from from climate action. And the theme that kept coming up is, oh, while we were doing all this work, we forgot to tell the story. So people don't feel connected to this. They don't feel invested in this. And, so storytelling is really key for how do you actually turn something from an idea into a reality. And so this was an idea, and it only started to become a reality when I figured out, basically when I figured out that what we were developing was shrink wrap for crap. So that's when people could kind of get it and like, oh, and I'm interested and I want to learn more. And it was visual. So, yeah, I think that the story of how I kind of got through to this. I mean, really, at the end of the day, the only reason I stuck with it, because I pretty much hated it for the first couple of years, was because I had told myself that I'm going to prove to my daughters that there's a way that they can pick themselves up when they're sort of been kind of pushed to the side. And so that was really the thing that kept me going. So I wouldn't say it was like necessarily inspiration. I think it was desperation. Maybe there's a little bit of inspiration, but more desperation. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good story or not, but
I think
that was the truth.
I think that's a great story because we are all about transparency and telling the truth. So thank you for going there, and it's very well said. Thank you. Let's take Candace, and then we'll get to Steve. Candace, go right ahead.
Thanks, Laura.
Uh,
What an inspiring story, Diana. Fantastic. Even if you had bumps in the road in the early days, and great role modeling for your daughters, by the way. So kudos to you for that. It's very difficult to do those things simultaneously. I know that. Um, so I'm curious because you mentioned earlier about gendered violence against women across places like India. But I also know that obviously that's a serious issue in places like Haiti as well. And I just wonder if I'm curious to know, is that like, are these regional targets for what you're trying to set up? Or is that a different kind of infrastructure issue in Haiti?
No, I think it's very similar. I mean, I think you know, our model for getting our solution out is to find local partners. So you know, regional, national partners that can essentially what we'd like to do is out license the sort of the structural components of the iThrone and have local partners essentially build that to spec, and then we would provide the brains, which are the evaporative components and the controls package. So that's how we think we can kind of launch lean and sort of get an outsized sort of outsized coverage of the market, you know, being a small team based in Boston. So yeah, so absolutely Haiti would be great. I think we've talked to a couple of partners in Haiti. I think the security situation's a little
Mm.
uh difficult there. So we've decided that we're gonna not necessarily go into conflict zones immediately unless we have good partners there that actually know how to do business in those into those zones. But so there's such a overwhelming need for this that we actually what's interesting is now we have inbounds from entities in the United States.
Mhm.
So, and we're fundraising right now, and you know, we keep getting asked the question of, well, you know, don't you know, are you only selling this into developing countries, or you know, is there a market for this in developed countries? And so we kind of feel like these inbounds in, you know, from entities in the United States. So we're working on potentially a pilot for modular housing in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we're talking to some partners locally in Massachusetts around coastal sanitation. So we're trying to sort of get ourselves more steady on our feet while we, you know, work with sort of partnerships that have less complexity than going into a conflict zone. But to answer your question, I think anywhere where there's essentially either a lack of hookup to water or sewage plumbing, I think that would be a target for us. Yeah, I mean, we definitely love to have an impact in all of those places.
Awesome. It's a brilliant idea. Fantastic.
Thank you.
We have time for two more comments or questions. I think, Steve, you want to go, and then we'll move it over to Connie.
Yeah, sure. Two quick ones. I think the one most important is I'm curious if you've had any contact or worked at all with the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center. I know the woman who runs the center, Paula Murphy, used to head up the Massachusetts Export Center. She's just fantastic. So
I'd love the connection. We've been working a lot with the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. So they're basically a quasi-governmental arm that's focused on building businesses and jobs in the climate tech sector. So but we haven't hooked up with them. So I would definitely love to be hooked up. And I see you have a background with containers. We were just talking to the people organizing the World Cup in Monterrey, Mexico for 2026, and they're planning on building container hotels, like taking shipping containers and turning them into hotels for the massive amounts of people
oh,
that are going to come
cool.
into
Yes.
Monterrey for those four soccer games. And we were talking to them about essentially, you know, doing a container bathroom for some of the, essentially for the
Awesome.
event and also for the tourism.
Cool. All right. Well, I will provide an introduction through
Absolutely.
Laurel to
Yeah.
Paula Murphy. She's fantastic. And then my other quick question was, how can I invest in this company?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I just put my email in the in the chat. Yeah, we're raising around right now. So yeah, absolutely happy to tell you more. That'd be great.
Excellent. Yeah.
Where are you located, Steve?
I'm in Baltimore. I live in
Oh,
Baltimore,
Baltimore.
but work
Oh,
in
okay, yeah.
DC.
Oh, great. We have our first angel syndicate that came in is in the sort of mid-Atlantic Maryland region. So yeah, the Pax Angels. I don't know if you know them.
Yes. Okay. All right. Everybody heard that, and your email is in the chat box, so that's a good thing too. And Connie, do
Great.
you want to jump in? Yeah, and we have
Yeah,
hear from
yeah,
you.
sure. Absolutely. I remember hearing Diana's story not too long ago. I don't remember
Oh,
when, but I thought, this is amazing. This woman who came up with this great concept. And so now I'm so pleased to be able to hear it again. And congratulations, Diana. You
thank you
certainly
so much.
have charged a path and have created something that no one else has considered. And it's not taken that step forward like you have. I think my questions are more related to the manufacturing of your product.
Mhm.
And I'm curious to know where you will actually be manufacturing the material,
Mhm.
and if you're facing any kind of concerns about the future on that location.
So we're gonna do we have a partnership in the Midwest with an extruder where we're doing the one of the layers of the bag, essentially, of the member of the material. So and then the other layers we actually source from a supplier in Massachusetts. So the the material itself, we're going to maintain the manufacturing in the United States, partially to protect our intellectual property and partially to also ensure high QA/QC standards. But it's sort of the easiest, cheapest component of our system to distribute globally, and it's a consumable because so the bags last about 2 to 3 months. I mean, depending on how the sort of velocity of usage, but essentially they're spec'd out for 2,800 uses about, based on our estimates on how quickly they fill up the bags. So, and these are the bags that go inside the toilet and evaporate the waste. So, we're going to maintain that in the United States, and then likely outsource the production of the sort of the shell of the toilet, the sort of the cladding, to partners in regional markets because they can also, that reduces on logistics costs, but also they can probably source those input materials, which are pretty standard, from their own network of suppliers more cheaply than we could. So it's probably better for them to make those. So we just get paid a royalty on that. And then there's the electronics package for the ventilation inside the toilet, and probably we'll get those outsourced, manufactured, and it depends on how the tariff situation works, but probably in Asia, and then get those distributed. And we'll flash the code. So we have the code that goes on them that does the sort of there's some know-how in the code that controls the ventilation to optimize the performance. But because we're able to run these systems on very low energy. So in humid Panama, where the air that's coming into the toilet to push out the humid air that we've generated inside the toilet, it's equal humidity. It's about 90% relative humidity. And but we're able to run these on like zero point 0.2 kilowatt hour per day. So that's like definitely doable on solar. So, so we're trying to make this as off grid as possible, and as but then having some optimization on how much energy you use and when you use it. That's part of some of the know-how that we have on our controls package. So did that answer your question?
It sure does.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Great,
you.
great, great. All right, let's just take 30 seconds. Everybody unmute, and we're going to do a round of applause for Diana for congratulating her. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's so great to be part of this network. I feel like I'm in a tribe now, which is great. We always need tribes.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. Congratulations. And I also want to thank Molly and Ella for emceeing this particular program. Thank you so much. I see so many familiar faces in terms of even our WEG team participating, our WEG board members, and of course, all of you are WEG based. So thank you all. A copy of the recording will be placed on our YouTube page. So we will notify all of you when that takes place. And I also want to take just a moment. We are all about marketing and the next thing at WEG. So bear with me for a second. I want to share our next program here. And Steve, I can see you smiling because Steve definitely knows Joan Lorino, who is our next webinar presenter, who will be presenting on, her top, biggest exporting lessons, basically. So we'll be featuring her, and we're really, really excited about it. It's April 2nd, as you can see. And just a little bit, for those that aren't that familiar with WEG, WEG is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Chicago. And we're the only nonprofit that is committed to helping women-owned small and medium-sized SMEs increase their access to knowledge about exporting their products or services, which in turn will help them grow their revenue, create jobs, and make an even more impactful contribution to their families and the economy. And since 2015, mind you, we have served more than 50,000 women business owners through our educational programs, like the one that you're seeing here, and some that even Diana has been on in the past. So again, I wish to thank all of you, but I want to do a shout out once again to really the organizations that support WEG, and those are APCO, Associated Bank, FedEx, Flomo, Global Care Clinical Trials, LuxLine, SciAps, and also Visa. If you have any additional questions after this, feel free to reach out to me or to anyone on our WEG team, particularly the COO, Bob Mirovich, who is on the call today and has been instrumental at assisting on this program. And without further ado, I want to say have a great rest of your day. But once again, I blow a kiss. Diana, congratulations, so well deserved, and we are so proud of you. Keep up your great work. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.